it seems that books come in and out of your hands that are very relevant to what you may be thinking of or working on at the time. And there's an author that I've been meaning to look at for a long time. It's in this big stack of books that I have. And I picked up the book the other week, and holy cow, this is what I read. I do not believe the creed professed by the Jewish, Roman, Greek, Turkish, which would be Muslim, or Protestant church, nor by any church that I know of. My own mind is my own church. Well, that was written by Thomas Paine in The Age of Reason more than 200 years ago. And I started to read and read and read. And it's quite interesting. Basically, what the book boils down to is what my friend has been telling me about on the Discovery Channel. And the way that he comes to these conclusions is this. He goes into ancient mythology, Egyptian mythology, Greek mythology, and so on. And then draws the parody of how virgin birth or a great flood or all the stories that we're familiar with in the Bible have been done many times before in other religions. And then he goes into the motivations of the church. Well, why is the church doing this? Well, many reasons. But the important one to us is that it seems to have separated us from God by all the various dogmas. Then he devotes quite a good portion of his book to debunking the Bible and draws many, many different conclusions. Why this is false or why this is, there are incongruencies and the like. But his problem isn't with God, because he absolutely believed in God. His issue, if you will, was with what he called revealed religions. And by that he meant religions that were revealed to a prophet, whether it be Muhammad or Moses. He really had an issue with Moses. Saying that, well, if God revealed this to this person, why not to the rest of us? Why are these people special? And then he further questioned their motivations. Well, are they really telling us what was revealed to them, or do they have an agenda within themselves? And then he went on to describe how the religions work and the necessity for installing someone like Satan in the religion so that we have this world of separation, good versus evil, and it helps to keep us fearful and downtrodden and beholden to the churches. This all became what he called a trade. In other words, religion became a means of livelihood and a trade to those who were involved in it, and they were involved in this giant, what he calls a pious fraud. And he said that the success of one of these people encouraged others. And it made me think of what I spoke about last week about watching Daystar or TBN, how there's this incredible myriad of preachers. And if you watch it for any length of time, you get quite a food chain represented. Everything from the screamers that strut around the stage to the very thoughtful ones with all the bookcases and things behind them that look very scholarly. But I thought, holy cow, it's still happening today. The success of one preacher in our time, in modern times, I'm not going back to the 40s, but in our current time, say Billy Graham. Well, he was so phenomenally successful that all these people started to follow in lockstep and add their own flavor or twist to it. On the TBN or the Daystar channels, each one of them has a unique slant on his particular ministry and, of course, products to market that follow that, which is fascinating to me. Being in marketing most of my life and religion, this is kind of a wonderful blend of both that I really find fascinating. But what Thomas Paine really wants to bring our attention to in the book is that there is a true theology. He says any man-made theology is just that. It's man-made. It's false. But we need to look no further than to look around us to see the presence of God. And his favorite analogy is to look into the stars. And as he began to contemplate the stars and the movement of the planets, and he was very well educated because he actually speaks about the distance between the planets and atoms, so this is why I was hoping Tian would be able to hear this part. He was extremely scientific. And he says that God places all these things, the plant world, the animal world, the constellation of stars, for our education. Because as we observe those, we're able to draw certain conclusions. In other words, the creation of man. Whether you buy the creation story or not, we can certainly say of ourselves, I did not create myself, nor did my father create himself, nor the grandfather before him. So these are certain mysteries that we cannot explain without a divine being the creator behind it. He uses another analogy about the movement of the planets and how even the ancients were able to predict up until a few hours the coming and the passing of an eclipse. Well, he says, by man reasoning, by observing nature, by observing the movement of the planets, he was able to transform that into something usable, like clockwork, like the building of a mill. And so his true theology is simply being present and observing the works of the Creator around us. In fact, he says, man cannot make principle, he can only discover them. We can know God only through his works. That doesn't mean we don't want you to come here every week. It means what Dr. Gill has been saying all along, and that is, don't believe everything you hear, regardless of the source. This is something, whatever you may hear, whatever you observe, that you have to take into yourself, into the silence that's inside, to draw your own conclusions. Thomas Paine says, nothing is made in vain. And that includes us. We can